All right, a very good afternoon to you one more time. We sincerely apologize for that short break there. All right, so we were trying to look at the issues in the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, whereby for like about 30 years now, it's been a civil war, you may want to say it. And of course, some call it, you know, the war of the Titans. Some call it the war of the refugees, because it is believed that some Rwandese, you know, remember the genocide in 1994 between the Tutsi and the Hutsi that, you know, snowballed into another issue in the DRC. And of course, one biggest problem in the DRC is that for about 25 years now, not even a single administration there has been able to put some calm in what is going on in the DRC. What are the issues? How best can we resolve the conflicts in the DRC? That's what we're going to be looking at today on the program, African Discourse. And of course, we are so privileged to have two gentlemen here joining us this afternoon. First and foremost, we have Honorable Fred Uyigwe. Honorable, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
And also, too, we've got Nowita Ebotako, a public affairs analyst, of course, a conflict resolution expert. So perhaps he's going to be giving us some insights in his very lofty wealth of ideas on how to resolve some of the issues in the DRC. Viewers out there, you're welcome one more time. My name is Evan Sunokoge. All right, so gentlemen, as we set the foundation for today's you know, issue, African Discourse, looking at the conflicts in the DRC, what can we readily say is the main problem in the DRC? I will start with Honorable Fred Uyigwe.
The problem of the DRC is multi-pronged. There's ethnic conflict, there's ethnic rivalry. Then there's, of course, the economic competition. That is the harvesting or exploitation of their natural resources by external forces, external nations. So countries that are extraneous to their interests. And like you said, they have not had stable governments. So that has given rise to vigilante and to mercenary forces that are in conflict, ethnic forces that are in conflict one with another, all in a bid to control the resources. So that basically it's what the problem is. And all this is exacerbated by the fact that the armed band, the M23, or the 23 movement, came up in 2012 to really pour, as it were, fuel into the conflict, being now the most recognized of the armed forces or armed bands
in DRC.
In DRC. So, the problem is it's not an easy one, and it also dates back, like you also mentioned, back to the 1990s when the Hutsis and the Tutsis had their conflict. But what is happening is that the conflict, it's also spreading to other nations around in the Eastern Bloc. Burundi, Rwanda, Uganda,
Angola,
and recently Kenya. So that naturally will complicate issues. But the main thrust of the conflict is the competition for the natural resources of the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Okay. All right. So, Butako, let's hear from you because just like what we said at the introduction, that it can be best described as a war of the refugees. You've got the camped Rwandese now left their country in Rwanda, and of course they found themselves in the DRC. They are part of the warlords that we have in the DRC today. So what do you think are the issues? How come these worrying factors in the DRC have not been able to understand the fact that DRC probably only harbored them? So let them remain as refugees. But today they are claiming ownership of some parts of some provinces in DRC. Imagine some few days ago, we understand that there was an attack again in the eastern parts of the DRC. Yes. What are your thoughts?
Well, as you have said, the major factors fueling the crisis is as a result of the massive natural raw materials in that country. That country is blessed. If there's anything over-blessed, that country is sitting on endless, bottomless pit of raw materials. Is the largest producer of copper in Africa.
And even in the world, one of the
largest. In the world is cobalt. That raw material used to do batteries, which is going to be another issue for imperialists, because we are not talking about electric cars. Democratic Republic of Congo is the highest producer of cobalt. That's raw material to do batteries. That's the raw material for electrical cars. So the country is sitting, as I said, on the bottomless pit of wealth, natural wealth. Talking about people who just cross over the border, they're not struggling with, aborigines, so to say. They are looking for, they want to have a bite at the raw materials in that country. And the Western powers are not even helping matters, because we must not forget easily how the Republic of Congo began, for the interest of the viewers. In 1958, 59, 60, when the legendary Patrice Mulumba became president, he was with himself and his other nationalist fighters, they secured independence from the Belgian colonial masters, specifically King Leopold II. He was an imperialist of the highest order. Immediately, the then Congo gained independence. Mulumba was an uncompromising nationalist. He said, no, you cannot take my raw material. They killed him. It was a conspiracy, masterminded by CIA, European powers, and what have you. They brought Mobutu. It has been a long story of ding-dong, of new colonial manipulation of the resources of DRC. They use Mobutu to the teeth. The uranium, the Congo is equally rich in uranium.
Uranium, yeah.
That's raw material to produce atomic bomb. In fact, for one of the reasons they liquidated Patrice Mulumba, so that they will have free access to that resource. So they use, Mobutu to the teeth. When they have exhausted Mobutu, we all know what happened about Laurent Kabila. Kabila was a popular guy, but along the line, he said failing for these mineral resources. We're now into it. Why was Kabila killed? Because he was playing dangerous game with some of these bad boys. They were manipulating the mining fees, and they said, he was shut down. His son eventually came on board again, Joseph Kabila. Today we have Felix Tshisekedi as the president. In spite of the transfer of power in 2018, 2019, when Felix Tshisekedi became
the president,
that was the first, transfer of power, peaceful, so to say. But the problem persists. United Nations has been involved. Peace is still elusive. But I think we should give this man a chance. Felix Tshisekedi. He's led by a year in office now.
Yeah,
and the crisis is spiraling.
It's still going on.
It's still going on.
Yeah.
So the basic thing for the viewers to take out from our discussion, because that country is super rich, everybody wants to taste from it, and unfortunately, one of the greatest humanitarian crises is happening in the Horn of Africa. You know, that's a fact.
Yeah.
So the super raw materials in that country is the bane of conflict. So it now takes a central government with extra leadership prowess, talking about Felix Tshisekedi now, to be able to manage this crisis. So we still give it some time. It's just barely 1 year. So the problem is on. That is the reality in the Democratic Republic of Congo. The Western powers did not allow Congo to breathe from the beginning. They are still interested in the resources. You will not be surprised that all these rebels, they are being pumped somewhere. Just as in Nigeria, some people stealing our oil. My brother, they are being pumped from America, from you. That's the fact of the matter.
All right.
So imperialism is still part of the problem.
Yeah, let us also look at some major interventions that perhaps have been made. Just like what you said, you talked about the United Nations intervention, which to you is suspicious.
Because
just like
the United States is
some other analysts have explained it now, that the United Nations has always been headed by the United States.
By the United States.
They cannot do anything for you free, so to say.
But how you know that?
The thing is, before we start alleging suspicions,
yes,
you have to consider the nature, the character of the United Nations. It's an organization made up of all the countries of the world. So it cannot be under the control of one nation, because you have experts from all nations making their contributions to the problems of, making their contributions to solutions.
So peacekeeping missions.
Peacekeeping missions
across the world.
And solutions to problems of the world, challenges of the world. So it would be naive and myopic to blame one particular country.
We have to blame them. We have the facts.
The thing is,
so you can learn. What you learn?
No, excuse me, sir. There are things that are plausible, that are possible. There are things that are not.
Okay.
Because when you have an organization that draws resources and experts from all sectors, all nations, you cannot begin to allege. There could be influence, yes, but it can only be at best influence, because they have the financial muscle to support.
The military muscle.
They have the military muscle, but they have military muscle. It's not going to be directed, because there's a United Nations peacekeeping force that is independent of all nations of the world. So it's the peacekeeping force that goes to try to keep the peace.
Yeah, it is the way that they go about
just as that
to keep
is
the peace now.
So the thing is, yes, the thing is,
let him land.
So I will not begin to point accusing fingers at different nations for their influence. We should actually show appreciation for the support and contributions they make to that organization.
Okay. Now
the thing is, excuse me, sir. There have been departments within the United Nations peacekeeping force headed by Nigerians before. You know?
We know.
Yeah, so it is. So it's not something that one country or a group of countries can overly influence.
Okay.
That said, the role of African Union should be examined. You know, we should take a frontal role in this crisis, because this is something right in our backyard, and this is something that can exacerbate, can expand, explode to include other neighboring countries. So we want to curtail it as much as we can and as quickly as we can. Like my friend here said, the bane of the conflict is
the
the
resources
wealth, the
control.
potential.
Is
Is
endless.
the wealth
Endless potential.
that they have.
Okay, before we continue,
Sure.
perhaps let's look at what seems to be one main issue now that analysts have also said that may be responsible for the continuous conflicts in Rwanda. Now, the advent of Islamic movements on the continent of Africa. I mean, in Nigeria here, we've got our fair share, the Boko Haram and all that. And of course, in some other countries of the African continent, we also have them in various nomenclature and all that. Now, in the DRC, we've got them as also a factor in the continuous conflict in the DRC. Now, we understand that Rwanda seems to be one major country that is enjoying peace, so to say. But some persons are not so happy with Rwanda in the way they are being accused of supporting some of these factors, the M23 factor,
The
warlords, the Islamic movements and all that. So how can we, handle off all this? Because the greatest challenge now for Felix Nzekedi, or whatever we'll call it, it's how to really bring, because, I mean, the whole world, DRC seems to be the center of attraction today. When we talk about internal conflict.
It has been.
So how can we bring all this to bear?
You see, by God's grace, I'm a conflict resolution practitioner. I go to Red University, and we are still doing superior courses on it, So what you call this superpower influence around the world, you cannot take it away. And it has been one of the reasons that where we don't even have peace in Africa. Let me quickly tell you something.
Is it deliberate?
It's deliberate to control the wealth of Africa from one side. For instance, Nigeria. We went through this thing. I'm an expert. Conflict resolution, internal, we know what is at play. Even Nigeria. Why is Nigeria still where we are? In spite of on the surface, we want democracy. Let me not go into that. So what I'm saying is that.
No, let us
let him go.
I don't want to go. I don't want to. Please go outside.
Please,
Honorable Fred, let's say.
I will let you. Please don't blame our underdevelopment on external.
But let him anchor his point.
This is our problem. You see, the problem we have. Sir, I'm sorry.
He has the floor.
Yes.
Let him anchor.
Let us take responsibility for our underdevelopment.
Yes.
Please.
We will take responsibility.
Please, let's do that.
It is because it's just like. In Things Fall Apart, most of all read Things Fall Apart. Tony Achebe said, he said, when a man comes to your house to defecate on the floor, what do? You take a stick and break his head. But in Africa, in Nigeria, we allow these people to come to Africa and to manipulate us. We are not in charge of our destiny. That is the situation. You have just mentioned Paul Kagame, what he's doing in democratic.
People collaborate with them to steal from us.
Yeah. So it is when your house is porous that external can come and do what they want to do.
Thank you.
We all agree when you say play with that.
Yes.
And the Western powers, they have a way of manipulating leadership in Africa. Look at Liberia, for instance. You know that after the pogroms in Liberia, after the horror of the madness of Chastello and all that, the coming of this man then, this Liberian ex-footballer, George Weah was even delayed. George Weah won that first election. Then I gave it to that lady, Mary, whatever. Salif, because she has been their ally over the years. That's a different story. So what I'm trying to say is that, okay, let's look at Angola. All the noise, Angola is one of the, Angola is equally super rich in oil. America ensured that country were almost torn to pieces. You remember Jonas Savimbi of UNITA? Jonas Savimbi.
Yes.
Jonas Savimbi was used by the Western power to destabilize Angola. So what is happening now? Thank God you said it. Look at the role Paul Kagame is now playing, even in his own backyard, because you want to be in charge of, ephemeral wealth. People will die one day, gentlemen. That's for easy. Look at all the mess Chancellor did in Liberia. What led to the fall of Chancellor? So these are the issues we are saying. Political insincerity,
Paul Kagame has been accused.
All right, now, so let the question, that brings us to the question,
yes.
I know, which let's come to Honorable Fred now.
Paul Kagame has been accused.
Yeah, just before,
and the man
in
has
addition,
come out to deny.
what Paul Kagame, everyone.
So where we do not have,
you must deny that.
where we do not have proof.
Honorable Fred, in addition to what you want to say, now you were about establishing the fact that it is not very true that Western powers are really supporting some of these conflicts in Africa. That was
no.
Okay,
that is not my statement.
Okay, but I thought you were...
No. I'm saying, yes, they do support.
Yes.
You see, it's I don't, let me say it's myopic to say, and block, this is the policy of the Western powers. No. There are also people in Western power, who in the Western nations, who believe that Africa should be given the chance to develop.
But the question that we ask is, how come their intervention, they don't
has
come,
not brought peace.
It has not brought any peace.
That's
the question.
It is interest.
We are coming to what
It
I'm
is
saying.
interest.
So what do you think is their interest
Economic
now?
interest.
No.
Economic
They
interest.
have economic interest.
That's it.
So it depends on us to negotiate the proper terms on which to relate so that we can enjoy mutual benefits. They desire to benefit from the resources of Africa because it helps their industries to develop. They need, excuse me, they need natural resources.
The energy crisis
We have natural resources that we do not have technology to develop or exploit.
Yes.
So you strike a balance, you negotiate, and that's what we need to be doing. But it's just that our negotiators are self-centered and greedy and selfish.
Corrupt.
So they give everything away.
Now you have spoken the heart of the matter. They give everything away.
They give everything away.
They give it away.
Because of
greed.
Because of short-term benefits.
Wow.
The thing is, we should take responsibility. I thank God for what is happening in Nigeria today. You know, the youths are coming out to say, hey, we want to take our nation back. And this is going to spread throughout the continent.
Wow.
The youths are by far more educated than their parents. Okay? So they are informed, they are intelligent, they are smart, and they know what is going on in the world. And they can compete with their peers globally. So they don't see any reason why their peers globally should be taking advantage of them, like they took advantage of their parents.
Yes.
So that is where we are today in Africa. We saw what happened
in Nigeria.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's an African phenomenon. It's just that we just had our own experience 2 weeks ago, and we're probably going to capitalize on that. So what is happening is that in the DRC, okay, there are spheres of influence.
Interest too.
Interests. Within DRC itself, you have mentioned the different groups.
It's a multi-ethnic society.
Including those who came in,
Nigeria,
who took refuge there. Many of them now born there. Their parents took refuge there. They were born there, and so they are now claiming citizenship.
Yeah.
And rights. So it's a complex situation. It's a weave, a complex weave that needs to be untangled. But the main thing is satisfying the interests of the different groups.
Okay. All right. So in satisfying the interests of the different groups now, Nowitai Botako, just like what we said that you are a conflict resolution expert. All right. Now, so what kind of approach do you think can be used now in the DRC? Is it a political resolution approach? Or like what one or two persons have, suggested, that these worrying factors in the DRC, perhaps the government of the day in the DRC has to identify them and know that, hey, you guys don't really belong here. You were once a refugee and all that. And it's also very interesting to know that now that the youths that are constituting nuisance now in the DRC are youths under 30, just like what Honorable said. They were actually born in the DRC. They claim to own the land. They claim that they are citizens of the country and all that. So these persons have suggested that they should be identified and maybe smoked out in a way or taken to where they come from. So do you want to suggest that?
Smoked out. I think what Felix Tshisekedi need to do now, the onus lies
on him.
Lies on him. And quite unfortunately, he doesn't have a majority in parliament. You know, Kabila, Joseph Kabila, Laurent Kabila's son, who was there before he came.
He came in.
Yeah, he had a majority in parliament. They are still boxing each other in
So
parliament.
don't you think that is also an issue?
It's an issue.
Because
the man is not fully in charge. The man can even be impeached. That's the fact of the matter. This is democracy. So, you know, I said earlier that the man just barely spent 1 year. So he's still consolidating.
Do you see Felix?
No, 1 year.
Tshisekedi.
Okay, yeah.
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
2019.
2018, 2019.
Yeah, yes, about 3 years, sorry. I was looking at 2022. So, the guy needs to, he has to exhibit political charisma. He has to go beyond the ordinary that we know. He has to be
let us
a
also
leader.
look at the way he came
Because,
in. The way he came
won
in
the
is also
election.
questionable too. He won the election, but let's look at the way he was orchestrated in. The man, the Kabila son you talked about a while ago, was
Joseph
very
Kabila.
instrumental into his emergence as the president now.
Yeah.
So if we have that kind of situation, don't you think Felix Tshisekedi may continue to be the kind of leader, a leader that is not able to really handle issues in the DRC?
You see, you know, the problem, maybe we'll quickly look at Edo State, for instance, so that viewers can understand what I'm trying to say. You know, as we see in Edo now, for instance, the state assembly is fragile for the you know, sitting governor. We have an election coming up next Saturday. So, and the governor from Fila Regard in town is desperate. He wants
Anyway, let us.
to win. So what happened in what happened in I'm going back to Congo.
Let's quickly take a short pause.
I'm going back to Congo.
Let's take a short pause. Viewers out there, the program is still African Discourse on independent television here in Benin City. And of course, we are looking at the continuous conflict in the DRC. What best methods can we really, can be employed to ensure that peace returns to the DRC? Last 30 years ago was actually when they knew peace in the country, and for the past 30 years, it's been one issue.
It's been one issue after the other.
So we're going to be right back after this time out. Please stay tuned. All right, welcome back. The program is still Africa Discourse on independent television. The DRC is our special focus this afternoon. And looking at the continuous conflicts in the DRC, we still have Honorable Frederick Igwe here and also Nwita Egbotako. Now, Nwita Egbotako, let me come back to you now. We're trying to look at the political will that we think Felix Tshisekedi has that he's not deploying. So what do you think is the problem?
As I said, Felix Tshisekedi is the current president of the Republic of Congo.
Yeah.
And he has enormous responsibilities to ensure peace, sustainable development in that country, given the fact that the country is super rich in raw materials. So what he needs to do is to secure peace at all costs inside the country. And the fact remains that he doesn't have majority in parliament. The parliamentary body, supreme parliamentary body, is mostly populated by Joseph Kabila's party. I don't have the name now. That his predecessor. And from what we gathered when we were looking at the situation, they are still fighting. They are still divergence of issues, and the policies to be, if you don't have control of the parliament, you are in trouble. Except you have a rubber stamp parliament, you can say, do this for me and do that for me. So, Felix Tshisekedi has a lot to do. The country has had decades of unrest, refugee crisis, millions displaced, humanitarian crisis, one of the worst across the world. So I think he has to be open-minded, just like what my colleague better has said when he was mentioning the word transparent. He had to be transparent. He had to show leadership to move everybody along. I'm sure if he's able to inclusivity, if he's able to reach out to the warlords, hey, gentlemen, okay, why are the warlords killing themselves in the East? It's the raw materials there.
The bastion, the basis of the raw materials.
The raw materials. That's why they're saying, okay, why are the refugees who have now become second-class citizens? Why are they not saying, because they have seen diamonds, they've seen raw materials, they can access and sell in the black market. Okay. Now, so the government has to be practical, pragmatic, and be a leader indeed.
Okay, Fred, good.
Yes, all the warring factions have to recognize something, and one thing. That is, no matter how long or how fierce the war may last, to resolve it, they must at the end come to the table.
That is the basis of personal.
So if you are eventually going to come to the table, why not start from the table?
Why not start now?
That is conflict resolution 101.
Yes.
You know?
You must come to the table.
Start at the table. Present your arguments. Present your positions. And let us put weights to them to know who deserves what. So let there be an analysis of equity distribution.
Equity distribution.
Equity entitlement.
Of the resources.
Equity entitlement, you know. And once you are able to do that, then you can begin to get people to work together. It is the ability to work together, work with each other, that is going to forge the nation forward. Like my friend here said, the Democratic Republic of Congo is potentially, I would like to use that word potentially, very rich. It is rich in natural resources. But until you exploit the natural resources, it remains dormant. It's of no use to anybody, not even to those who sit on it. Okay? But you have to work out a system by which you can maximize the exploitation of the natural resources you have, and also be a participant in building the value chain. That is what is lacking. That is what we lagged for a long time in Africa. We were not even allowed to benefit from the value chain. Now, like I mentioned earlier, our youth have recognized that that denial has denied us too much of our wealth and has kept us
perpetually
impoverished. So now, with new thinking, new mentality, new technology, new resources, we can better able to analyze what we have and what we can actually give up. Because I'll give an example. If you are sitting on 1 trillion barrels of oil, it's no good to you until you allow, if you do not have the technology to develop it, okay, until you sell portion of it to give you the leverage to be able to explore more of it. And that portion that you are selling, you may have to sell to even unfriendly nations who have the capacity, the capability to exploit. Exactly. So it's a cost-benefit situation. You have to balance it. I don't see the problem of the East African conflict, the area we are talking about, DRC, Burundi, Kenya. I don't see it as something that is insurmountable.
You mean their influence now in,
No,
in
no,
the
no,
DRC?
no. I'm not seeing the conflict as insurmountable at all.
Okay.
Like you mentioned earlier, it is the will. And where the actors, where the different factions lack the will, then it becomes incumbent upon the larger organization, AU, and United Nations, to sincerely intervene.
And perhaps we
And
can also add
that
to
this
that
is
when
this
the
is
internal
where
factors
this is where what he is
do
saying.
not give the cooperation.
Yeah, what he is saying is that there is no sincerity within the international organization
There's no.
to actually engage them in a peaceful resolution.
Yeah, but before we say that, Honorable, why don't we also try to question the cooperation of the internal factors in the first place?
Yes.
The internal
Where the
factors,
internal,
how
you see,
cooperative are they?
The thing is, no, what has happened is that the internal factors, they have failed.
So if the
No,
internal
those
factors
who-
have
those-
failed,
those-
the
those-
external
excuse me.
factors may have little
So
or nothing.
No, those who are directly involved in the conflict have failed to resolve the issue.
Okay, let me give you a scenario now.
So-
Like what happened on Sunday in the eastern part, in the eastern province, a certain city in the DRC. There was an attack in some certain villages. That is the way it has been for about 30 years now. Now, this is an internal situation, internal crisis, internal conflict and all that. Now, for the external factors, the United Nations and all that. Now, the UN, soldiers cannot be everywhere in the DRC. Now, if the internal factors do not cooperate, in the sense that if the internal factors do not understand that, look, these guys are only here to restore peace,
Excuse me,
then
sir.
how do you expect the external factors
excuse
to
me, sir.
achieve that?
These separate factions have their leaders,
Of course they do.
have their representatives.
Yeah.
So it's the representatives that you call to the table. It's the representatives that are going to call their people to order once they have what they need. So you have to be able to get their leaders to a round table and have discussions with them and try to come to resolutions.
And these leaders also need to cooperate. They also need to cooperate with the external factors now, so that we can have...
No, they have to submit.
Yeah.
They have to submit.
They have to submit to the external factor, the external organizations, and agree to abide by the resolutions of the external factors or external organizations.
Okay. Now, Nowita Ibutako, let us
so it's not something we as an African organization, African Union, should relent on. It's something we should face frontally. We know it's a sizable portion of the continent.
It's one of
the largest country in Africa.
It's a sizable portion of the
after
continent.
Algeria.
And outside of that,
large country,
very rich in natural resources. You know, something that should not just be the responsibility of that region alone to protect, but the responsibility of Africa as a whole, African Union as a whole. The resources there. It should be the responsibility of African Union as a whole to protect.
Now, when we talk about the crisis on the continent of Africa, perhaps it's very difficult for people to understand, because a narrative has it that there is Islamist organization movements, Islamist incursion and all that now. And that's one explanation. So another explanation also has it, like what is happening in the DRC, that it is actually the fight for resource that is the issue. So for the ordinary person, it's almost very difficult, because for the Islamist movement we've seen in some countries, take for example in Nigeria. Now these guys, they really don't tell us that they want to take over the resource. No. They just want to unsettle the government of the day. They want to destabilize the government. So what is really what is their interest? What are they looking for? So don't you think, because for most analysts, they begin to see that, oh, that is probably what is happening in the DRC, not really for resource control, as we are trying to posit here in Nowita Ibutako.
My brother, just as we have said, let's really look at the United Nations before I discuss this matter. And then United Nations on the surface, United Nations organization is there to promote peace, sustainable development around the world. But there are countries, there are leaders who have vested interests because of their countries. They have buttons they press to make them relevant. In other words, when there are crises in these countries, Nigeria, you don't mention about the Boko Haram and this and that. They are being sponsored externally with collaboration with some Nigerian politicians.
I'll take that as an allegation.
No, that is the truth.
But you forgot that the United States offered help. They came and they were turned back. Did you forget that?
Yeah, by the secretary now, the sort of Blaken. Okay. That was about some few.
No, not even recently. During GEJ's time.
Yeah, Jonathan.
Yes, during Jonathan's time, the United States offered to help, and we said we could do it ourselves.
Okay, why the Nigerians say because
we should not always.
If you want to really say, was Jonathan in charge of his government? Goodluck Jonathan was not involved.
No, I was the person in charge.
Goodluck Jonathan was a puppet president of Nigeria.
You cannot say so.
That is the fact of the matter.
It's an opinion. That's your opinion.
It's my opinion.
That is not true.
Just, what is called his name?
Felix Zekesi now. Zekesi.
Okay, we're going to talk about Goodluck Jonathan briefly.
Yeah.
He was not in charge. No, just as what we are going to say now.
I disagree with you on that.
That is my opinion.
Respectfully disagree with you.
So, Tshisekedi is grappling. Is struggling assiduously to take control of his country. As I said, he doesn't have majority in parliament. So he has to play extra, the political carrot and stick.
Maybe to survive for the next 1 or 2 years that he has.
Apart from being survived, to try and get some kind of peace and social development to that country. But as we speak, that country is in ruins. There is poverty. There is
in DRC.
DRC. Yeah.
It's the fifth.
It is the story of Africa.
The human capital index in DRC is low.
2.5 a day. They live on $2.5 a day. Is the fifth? I have my statistics. That's my area. It is the fifth poorest country in the world.
Good.
It is crazy. It is lunacy, so to say, that such countries sit on bottomless pit of resources because they have vested interests. Their interests here and there, so that they want somebody they can use to manipulate things, even for the external powers. Imperialism is a factor in spite of the United Nations we are talking about. We know what they do on the net. Okay, now let's quickly say this thing. It's a graphic example I want to give. In Nigeria today, the oil theft we are talking about. You know the countries that are involved in stealing our oil. You think they don't steal the oil and go and throw it in the Atlantic Ocean?
Yeah, but they
took it to countries. They have destinations where they have been taken to.
They have their collaborators here. So that's the same thing we are saying in the DRC.
So within leaders in Africa.
What are you talking about? Oil?
No, I'm not talking as an example.
Let him anchor his point.
It's an example. Oil is a big deal in Nigeria. It's the main source of our revenue.
The people you gave the oil to manage for you are the people stealing it.
In collaboration with Western countries.
You gave oil.
I am on the same page with you.
You employed people.
Yeah,
and the people it's like it's like the treasury. You give treasury to officials, your countrymen, and then they empty it and tell you that the money is missing. When they are the only people who have the key to the place, and the place was not broken into. Please.
So that is what I'm saying. So it's the same trajectory, it's the same tragic situation across Africa.
The Islamic factor, which is what you mentioned.
Yeah.
That Islamic factor.
Yeah.
I believe that religious agitations always is a result of poverty. See, the truth is, the people are not cared for. They are not taken care of.
They are abandoned.
They are abandoned. which is the same problem we have in Nigeria with our Majiris.
Yes.
You know, the people have not been able to impress upon their parents, upon their Majiri communities, that education is important to them, to their upliftment and emancipation.
Wow.
And so, should have an appreciation for it. Instead, you leave them to their whims and caprices to survive on however and by however.
Yeah, but if we, even as we try to identify, Honorable, now,
yes,
the Islamic factor, that is only recent.
It is our,
we're talking about a war that has been on for more than 30 years.
Excuse me, you are saying it's only recent. This is something that has been underlying. It doesn't come up one day.
It has been brewing.
It has been brewing, exactly, it has been brewing. They have recognized it, they have complained. It's like what happened in Nigeria 2 weeks ago. It didn't start 2 weeks ago. It started 40 years ago. Nigerians have been complaining that our leaders are not transparent, our leaders are not accountable, our leaders act with impunity, our leaders are corrupt. Go and read newspapers of 40 years ago and see if you can differentiate it from what you are reading today.
The same story.
It's just a little bit worse. You know? So this is something that has been brewing. And the solution is in having conscientious leaders. Compassionate leaders.
Without selfish interest.
There is this video that went viral, you know, about the comparison between United Arab Emirates and Nigeria. They said the difference is their leaders, that they have leaders who are compassionate,
and they have vision,
who have the feelings for their people. That's what we don't have. What is someone storing a container full of
dollars
of currency for?
Yeah,
and then you are not applying it, you are not using it.
And then, you see, a while ago, I tried to question the emergence of what's his name now, the incumbent president.
Felix Tshisekedi.
Yeah, we tried to question the way he emerged. You know, a president that emerged with the support, a wide support of one of the Kabilas and all that. Now, the same thing with Nigeria.
No, he defeated Kabila. But in the presidential election,
but Kabila.
Yeah, but Joseph Kabila, you know, being magnanimous, just like what Jonathan did,
and allowed him
enter.
Yeah,
but as we speak, you see, have the largest members in the parliament.
Yeah, but what we are saying is that the way our leaders emerge in Africa, just like what Honorable Igwe was trying to say, that we just had an election in Nigeria now. Even we understand that a president has been elected, though we are yet to see the swearing in, and of course, lots of arguments here and there. But the way our leaders emerge in Africa is a factor, is an issue. Because if we continue to have this suspicious emergence, the way they emerge, at the end of the day, a lot of persons are really not in tandem with the way they emerge. Don't you think the crisis on the continent of Africa will continue in the way time will tackle?
Well, the crisis will continue, and for instance, the emergence of Felix Tshisekedi shows that the people in that country wanted him in because he defeated an incumbent president. You understand? Just like the kind of result that came out for the Nigerian election, presidential election a few days ago. For instance, you know, some parties got quite a number in the National Assembly, and some party won the presidential election and things like that. So what happened in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the majority of the parliamentarians are still under Joseph Kabila's control. That did not say that the electoral process was not transparent. It was transparent, but it's a step in the right direction. So the people from the result of that election shows that they wanted a change, because Joseph Kabila was an incumbent president who he defeated. So, and for me, I have faith in Felix Tshisekedi to do things.
He's been there from 2018.
Yeah,
this is 2023.
To do something, but there are power trying to drag him down. There are power that trying to pull him out of focus, just like this banditry that were reported in the eastern part of the country. So I think they will get it right. But quite unfortunately, in international politics, the superpowers are always there.
All right, so just because of time now,
They're always there to play their game.
Yeah, there's also research
So
that recently shows that one of the reasons why the crisis will not stop in the DRC is because rebels have been rewarded continuously, and that is an issue.
What am I saying?
So you want to anchor your points on that now. Will you agree?
Well, if you are rewarding rebels,
Then
of
what
course
are you
you are
saying?
encouraging
So you are
rebels.
putting
Because, because
So
we can,
what should be
we
done?
Can, we can draw a correlation to that with what happened in Nigeria, because since our kidnappers were being rewarded by high ransom fees and all that, they felt the need to continue to kidnap.
No, you don't have naira to kidnap again.
It's just that right now there's no money to be exchanged. So for their hostages.
So on a nutshell, where do we go in the DRC quickly? 30 seconds now.
In the DRC, like I said, they have to come back to the round table.
Yeah.
And they have to really shift their swords and be determined to move their nation forward.
All right.
The truth is this. You make by far more progress during peacetime than during conflict time.
Okay. All right, so we're going to leave that with you now, that we make more progress during peace time rather than during conflict time. It's the same thing with Nigeria here. When we have peace, definitely we can have a better situation in our country, and of course we can have better citizens because there is peace. Now, when one nation on the continent of Africa is at war, definitely it's going to snowball into other countries. And that has been the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo. If you live in the DRC, next door neighbor, Rwanda, Uganda, and all that, definitely the effects are there, just because the DRC has been at war. So we use this medium one more time to call that there should be peace in the DRC. For more than 28 years now, that country has not known peace. Very, very disturbing, very, very disturbing. Well, I'll leave my points here on the program today, Africa Discourse on Independent Television. I want to say a very big thank you to my guest, Honorable Fred Uyigwe, and also...
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
On the show today. Until same time next week, my name is Evan Sunokoge. Goodbye and God bless you.